So let's talk about the Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone controversy. First things first, let's look up the word controversy because I can already hear the story and oh, it's not as dramatic as I thought. The definition of controversial is giving rise or likely to give rise to public disagreement. Isn't it funny? Can you hear the drama that we add to the connotation of what it is to be a controversy? Like versus if you just look at the actual definition, giving rise or likely to give rise to public disagreement, meaning we can disagree, meaning that there's multiple perspectives and multiple opinions on the matter. So first things first, anyone who's watching this video, this seems like a obvious kind of way to set up the context or something to offer. I've thought about this in length. And I think when we take the time to think about something, it's very different from having a knee-jerk reaction to something. Because most of what I see online seems like a knee-jerk, this is the first thought that came into my head, so it must be the truth kind of reaction. So I'm going to check that my camera is recording because I'm paranoid. It is. Still getting the hang of this thing. So I am open to people to disagreeing with me. I am open to people having different opinions. I think that is what is really important to emphasize about our country. And I think it's one of the things that our country has lost and started to coddle is people's emotional immaturity and their lack of development of being able to have mature and grounded and respectful conversations with about things of I think something differently than you. And another context I want to set up is I have seen every single nominee for the 2024 Oscars, and I cannot tell you how many people I have seen posting online giving their opinions about who should or shouldn't have won that I promise you have not seen all of the nominees. So that's also very inauthentic and a poser thing to do, in my opinion. Because what's there for me is how many people are posting online that Lily Gladstone should have won or that she was robbed, that have not seen any of the other performances other than Lily Gladstone or other than Emma Stone, or maybe they haven't even seen Lily Gladstone's performance. How do you know that Emma Stone didn't rob all the other candidates if you haven't seen all of the films? So I'm just going to say that. And one more thing I want to say is I'm an actor and I'm currently studying. And I've been studying acting consistently in my university, college, as well as on my own and in the industry since 2006, 2007. Okay. So that's another thing. Like I'm bringing several different perspectives. Someone as who has studied film and watches a lot of films, as well as someone who is an actor, has studied acting, is consistently on the court studying acting. Okay, so I just wanted to provide that context because I know some people need what is your credibility on this subject? Why should I listen to you? Not that I care about people listening to me, but I got to talk about this, okay? So I actually, if you look back on my predictions, I actually said that Lily Gladstone was going to win and should win. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think her performance was extraordinary, very nuanced. I also think she did the best that she could do with what she was given. Considering that most directors are male and most male directors probably don't consult especially ones at the level of Scorsese, probably don't consult anybody about getting feedback because their ego won't let them, let alone a woman, to find out from them, is this character multidimensional? I thought her character was written very weakly. And, surprise, surprise, I'm not surprised considering who wrote it. I thought she did the best she could with the role that she was given. And having seen all of the nominees, the one that stood out to me that I was blown away by was Emma Stone's performance. But what was right there was, oh my gosh, but Lily Gladstone is the first Native and Indigenous person to be nominated in the Best Actress category. And one of the reasons I predicted that I thought she was going to win was, if you look at the Academy's history of how much marginalized communities have been snubbed and slighted and not even considered for that award or awards because of the inherent bias that's already there systemically. If you look at the actual statistics and demographics of who makes up the Academy, what was there for me is like, oh, well, they should do this. This is 2024. They should do this. Why not? Like, this is a way for them to atone. And let's be honest, there's a lot of looking good, white guilt, especially in Hollywood. Looking good is especially a big thing in Hollywood. And I honestly thought that a huge part of that was going to be like, we are giving this to her not just as an acknowledgement that the performance was great, but also as an acknowledgement of all the fuck ups, mess ups, things that we've had in the past, right? But then after I saw Emma Stone's performance, I was like, okay, but I started thinking about it. I was like, but to give Lily Gladstone the Oscar with any sort of other contextual information informing it of like, well, she's the first Native person to be, like, any of that, without just looking at the performance in itself, is that not tokenism? Is that not inauthentic in itself? And now here's the thing. This opens up like a whole other can of worms, right? Because the Academy for so long has slighted and left out so many people that it's gotten to a point where it's almost a joke, right? And things have been getting better slowly but surely. Like, if you look at my predictions for last year's Oscars, I had so much cynicism around Michelle Yeoh winning, even though I was like, God, she deserves to win. And that film was so extraordinary. And I just thought that there was no way that the Oscars were actually going to acknowledge it, because I'm like, it's indie, it's too weird, it doesn't check all the boxes, it doesn't have this like Oscar baity type of allure to it. But, what I feel though, I feel the tide turning. It's slowly but surely. It is not happening at the level and the speed that I want it to happen, but I feel and I see it turning. But I think what there is more to look at though is, there's so many things I could talk to you about this. It's like so fascinating to me. So anyway, I want those awards, and I want the awards to be that we're only looking at that, because to look at anything else is a cop-out and is inauthentic and is kind of gross. Then it's like this inauthentic people trying to make up for their guilt, make up for some sort of quota or look good. And I just, it's gross in that respect. And also, there's a whole nother conversation we can have. How can you possibly compare those two performances? How could you possibly look at two distinct performances and say this is the best, right? And there's also the thing you got to keep in mind, that art is subjective. But I was looking at it purely from an acting perspective. What it looked like was required and what I saw Lily Gladstone do compared to what Emma Stone did. And I loved Lily Gladstone's performance, and I was like mind blown by Emma Stone's performance. And I want more of those types of performances in acting in general. I feel like there has been so much suppression of the craft to be realistic and organic and all of this stuff. And you look at like her performance, Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker, it's like what is being called for is the abstract, is the extreme, is the explorative and the adventure and the fun of what has actors be so distinct and unique and what has acting be literally unable to be replaced by AI. We're losing some of that magic. But when we see, my teacher said this thing in class where he talked about like, that's why, like, he's like, we're so hungry for those types of performances, right? Now, there definitely is something to address. In 2017, Emma Stone won the Oscar for La La Land. And I thought that nomination and that win was a joke, personally. I thought there was a lot of publicity behind it. I was not watching every single Oscar-nominated film during that year, so I can't tell you in terms of the entire pool of what was possible to be nominated. But I thought that win was completely biased by the fact that she is white and that she's pretty and that it was in a film that was really popular, that was a big blockbuster. So for me, I look at that and I'm like, wow, so someone's like whiteness and their prettiness, privilege, and the fact that it was already biased and had a lot of money and, you know, marketing and all that stuff behind it, had someone win an award. It's supposed to be the most prestigious, supposed to be for the best performance. And I haven't even watched the other performances. All I know is that when I watched it, it was like, yeah, that's okay. That was all right. Nothing she did took me out of it, but it was really basic, as so many of the performances out there are that you see. It was really basic. But then you look at that and she won that Oscar, and look what opened up and expanded for her career. Like The Favorite, Poor Things, like her being able to do these like weird and nitty gritty types of performances that could really have her career be a career of an A-lister, right? So that's something that's really, really important also to keep in mind, is how important it is not just for people to win, but also the acknowledgement of their talent. Thank goodness there's been so much publicity for Killers of the Flower Moon, and that even though Lily Gladstone didn't win the Oscar, I already have seen from so many different things online and other projects upcoming that her career is so opened up. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. But how many people have been nominated in the past where that is not the case? How many people have been nominated like one hit type wonder, and maybe they actually deserve to win, but they didn't have the money or the backing or the prettiness or the particular race privilege that would have them win, that have been forgotten, that careers are barely thriving. And so that's just something that I wanted to say, because it's not just something that I even noticed with Emma Stone. It's something that I also noticed with Jennifer Lawrence is another perfect example. Silver Linings Playbook. I don't even remember the year that was. And I don't even remember who else was nominated. All I know is that when she was nominated for that and won for that, I thought it was a joke. I was like, this was decent. This was good. There was nothing about it, again, that took me out of it. But this was not a Oscar winning, like smack me across the face kind of what did I just see kind of performance. And I honestly think because the money was behind it, there was money behind that movie, marketing behind that movie. She was young, she's pretty, and she's white. And there's so much privilege that's involved with wealth and with race and with beauty. So, and then look what opened up for her career. She did that one film right after, I think it was American Hustle was the name of it. And she's pretty much been able to kind of like pick and choose like what she wants to do. And she was put immediately on the map as an A-lister. So anyway, there's something that has to be addressed by the Academy there. But the thing that I really want to have my attention on is moving forward, and how moving forward, because I have such a commitment to diversity within the entertainment industry and representation. I think it is so, so important. But to go back to like the original, what we were talking about, Justine Triet was the only woman nominated in the Best Director category this year. And Anatomy of a Fall was extraordinary. And I am not even a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I am not a Christopher Nolan apologist. Oppenheimer was the best film of this year, in my opinion, and was literally the best film I've ever seen him do. And I was blown away. And he's done quite a bit of films. And what was there for me when I was looking at my initial instinct, aside from what anyone would say, was like, yes, absolutely, he deserves to win Best Director. Now, was there a controversial uproar because Justine Triet didn't win Best Director? Even though she is like one of I think 6, 7, I don't know the actual statistic off of my head, of women that have ever been nominated in the 96 years the Academy Awards have been going on. No, it's anybody from marginalized groups, and I can just speak for myself as a woman, to know that you were given an award just because to make things right or because the time is due, not because it actually was you who truly, truly deserve that. I wouldn't want that. I don't think anybody wants that. But I think it's not necessarily issue. I think the real root of this, people are pointing to the symptom and trying to fix the symptom and put the Band-Aid over the symptom versus dealing with the actual source of the problem. And one of the things I will say too is there was a lot of people who were left out of being nominated that deserved to be nominated this year. But it's perfect example, 1001. It was an indie film made by A.V. Rockwell, Black female filmmaker. Film was extraordinary. The lead in that film was Tiana Taylor, and she blew me away. And what was right there was, I was like, man, Oscar-winning performance. Best Actress, Oscar-winning performance. But she was not nominated for Best Actress. There were lots of talent last year. Trust me, I saw 80 movies just at AMC last year. I saw a lot of movies last year. I didn't see every movie, but I saw way more than the average Joe, as they say. And there was a lot of films and performances that did not even get recognized with a nomination, right? Because the more and more I'm getting, and I want to look more into how are the nomination actually done, how are Oscar campaigns actually done, because I don't know enough to actually be able to talk about it. But the more and more the kind of statistic that I'm being pointed to is that if not enough people go see the actual film, it will not get nominated. So smaller indie films like 1001, barely anybody saw it. So it didn't stand a fighting chance to be nominated, even though it was extraordinary. So I think one of the things we need to start looking at and start asking is, first of all, I want to know, how does the nominations happen, right? When I see certain things even nominated, I'm like, wow, this was garbage. Some of the Oscar shorts and Oscar feature films, I was especially last year, I was like, what is going on? So who is the nominating committee? And is the nominating committee people who they see every single film and people who actually know about films, not just some random Joe Blow that you grab across, not that you have to have studied film, but have some sort of knowledge of it. And is the group diverse so that you actually have a diverse perspective of race and socioeconomic status and sexual orientation and gender identity when you view these films, so that you don't have an unconscious bias of oh, I'm a white person, so naturally I'm going to be oh, I like watching, I feel myself drawn and saying that the best performances are the ones by white people, that you might not even realize you're doing that. So it's how is that nominating committee happening, right? And what is the politics behind it? Are people being paid off? Is it the campaigns because of the studios and what made a lot of money? But finally, one of the key things I want to say is people so often think that them blasting their opinion and I'm very aware that I'm saying my opinion right now, but their reactive opinion, the second something happens in the world on social media, people might try to kid themselves that that's their way of making a difference. But honestly, most of the people that do it are the ones that are contributing to the problem. Because if you're just gonna flab your lips, flab your gab, and say, this is what I think, and da-da-da-da, and blah, 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 boo Hollywood, blame the Academy, victimize people, blame people, shame people, that kind of energy behind it, right? If you're just gonna do that, but you're not doing any other action to change what you say you want to happen, then you're not really doing anything. You want to know how you can support and have there be more diversity at the Oscars so that people who have been left out and underrepresented for so long can actually have the opportunity to be seen and be recognized, so there can be more natural diversity of what is in the categories and the people who are winning. Where are you putting your money? Your money has power, even if you don't make that much of it. As a consumer, your money has power. So if you're saying that you want diversity, but then you're not going to see Black filmmakers' films when they come out in theaters on opening weekend, if you're not going to see women's films when they're coming out in the theaters, if you're not going to see these indie films and supporting diverse cast and diverse stories being told, if you're not having your money go towards that, then what you are saying to Hollywood is you just want more of what you've been seeing. And I'm not saying this to dismiss Barbie or to dismiss Oppenheimer. I loved Barbie and Oppenheimer. But when people only go see that, and me and only a handful of a few other people in terms of like ratio wise go see 1001, that is the message that you are sending to the studios, to the buyers, to the production companies. When the films don't make any money and people don't see them, that's the message that you're sending. So if you want, it's kind of like the basics of law of attraction, like what you focus on, you attract. So if you want more of that, put more of your attention towards those things. Put more of your attention and your dollar and the actions that you take towards those things. Now, I'm not saying don't go see the blockbusters. I love seeing the blockbusters, but don't just go see the blockbusters and then go out there on social media and talk about so-and-so should have won for best actress, blah, 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 blah. Why is the industry not doing more diverse things when you don't know what you're talking about and you're not taking actions to change it on your level? So for me, it's just kind of like a no-brainer, you know? Like I know that there's systems that I can't change in my own, but I also know that the less I buy from Amazon, the less that I support, freaking sweatshops. It's like, do I still buy from Amazon? Yes, I do. But it's like, I have that awareness of like, what would I rather put my money towards and what can I afford to put my money towards and what little action or a bunch of little actions can I take that's going to make a difference to create and see the kind of future that I want to see, okay? So I feel really fired up about this because getting out there on social media and being like, oh, look, the, Native person didn't win for best Oscar, and having it be about that and not talking about the nuance and of all that I just talked about, it's like you're making it black and white and it is not black and white. The world is full of gray. The world is in technicolor. And if we do not talk about the holistic entire picture of something, there is no way we are going to transform it. So coming from someone who is a movie lover, who is so passionate about acting, so passionate about making films, that wants to elevate the craft of acting, that wants the Academy Awards and the Oscars to reflect the melting pot of diversity that is out there in the world globally, and that there's room for everyone. That is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from that commitment. And I will be able to tell if you comment on this video and you have not watched the full thing and you are not actually listening from an open mind to actually understand and be curious about what I'm saying, versus the moment that I say something, listening from a place to be offended and to share with me about your reactionary opinion. And I will respond otherwise. All I ask is that we have respectful conversation and that we respect each other and that we all grow as a people where we can discuss things as powerful, mature, respectful adults and be open to seeing different points of view. So, thanks for listening. One more thing to mention about this whole controversy is Emma Stone was given a better script, a multi-dimensional character, this non-traditional, abstract, encouraging exploration and breaking down barriers and doing things differently type of director. And it's like, I actually am not one of those people that believes that if you are a man, then you cannot tell a woman's story. If you are a black person, then you cannot tell this white person's story. If you're a white person, you can't tell this black person's story. I don't believe any of that stuff. I believe art is art. I believe that the artist can embody and channel and create a plethora and multi-dimensional, so much diversity, things that they might not be, might not be their story. And I do believe that we write what we know, which is why there's majority of male directors that are writing male protagonists, that are very clearly male protagonists and that are from their perspective. So I don't have it that male directors can't write female characters, but I can tell that 90% of them, most of the ones that I see, they have not talked to one woman and asked them, is this character multidimensional? Is this how women feel? Multiple women, not even just one woman. Not that one woman can speak for all women. It's like, so, are you doing your due diligence if you are not part of the community that you are doing a movie about to find out what is that experience like for that community? So I know that Martin Scorsese worked really close with the Osage people, but so it's not that I have it that he shouldn't have told that story or couldn't, but it also really, really felt like that he was the main one behind it. I didn't feel that her character had this unbelievable multi-dimensionality. Like, even the fact that he had himself at the end of the film reading the thing, it had it be about him and his ego, which I didn't like. And I don't even know if he sees it. I don't even know if he's from such an older generation where he can even see it, or if there's even younger generations that are clear of how biased they are, that they automatically have it, that anything that Scorsese comes out with is gold because he's Scorsese, because we grew up with him being one of the key directors in the industry. And I like Martin Scorsese. I like his films. I think he's an extraordinary filmmaker. I think he's paved the way. And I also think he paved the way and was able to a lot because of his privilege. So when you have privilege, it's part of the privilege is the honor and the responsibility of what am I going to do with this privilege? Now that I'm in this position, how can I really have this story? I just feel like, man, can you imagine if Killers of the Flower Moon was completely from her perspective? It would have been a different film. It probably would have been way more interesting. But most of the films he makes are from white men's perspective about that are criminals and what they're getting away with and all of that. So anyway, to reiterate, the problem is not this person shouldn't have won this Oscar. The problem, the bigger problem that is so complex and multidimensional is if you look at the studios and the films that are being made. And as I said before, it's the lack of the roles and the lack of the opportunities and the ones that are given the opportunities telling the same kinds of stories over and over. And why it's important for us to give opportunities to filmmakers that are from marginalized groups is because Most often, writers write what we know. Almost every single one of my stories that I've ever written has a female protagonist. And I'm not like, I should make this a female protagonist to have this be more balanced for women and their stories. I just do it naturally because I'm a woman. And that is the way that I see the world. It is the perspective that I see the world from. So, and again, I know sometimes it feels like, oh, the studios, they're like these big, like we can't even like break this, all these glass ceilings. Like it feels like they're so disconnected from us. Like they're like a concept, like a different entity. Like what can I do? And as I said earlier in this video, the actions that we can take is with what we consume. If we are consuming certain things, we are telling the studios, this is what we like and this is what we want. And I know that there's going to be certain stories that are not going to be advertised as much and easily as everyone else. But I seek out those movies. I know other people do too. You can follow me if you want me to talk about those movies or remind you about when they're in theaters because you aren't aware of it. Or there's tons of other influencers out there that do movie reviews that watch all the things, not just the popular stuff. And that is how we can do it. We can show up on opening weekends and support women filmmakers. We can show up in opening weekends and support weird indie films. We can show up in opening weekend and support Black filmmakers. We can show up in opening weekends and support films and stories with diversity that reflect the kind of diversity that we want to see, the stories we want to see. And the more that we show up on opening weekends, the more that we stream those things on streaming services, the more that we show and use our money and what we consume, the content that we consume, this is what I want to see, the more it will be seen in the world. So do not think that when you do not do that one small thing or take that one action of watching that thing and sharing about it on social, that doesn't make a difference, because it does. Because enough people do that, it will alter what is possible in the entertainment industry. It will transform it. And that is what I am about. Let's do it.